Hi, I'm Mike, and this is an intro. Alright, what we got here is Sunbringer's Torch. A green 4-drop, 2 green, 2 colorless, that says, Bolster X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it gains trample until end of turn. Now, I'll be honest, this card, in an EDH format, it's not exactly the most powerful choice you can choose. There's a lot of others, mostly because this card, it only bolsters one creature. Now, Bolster X isn't bad. You're not paying into this, you're not basing it off a creature's power, which could be better in certain situations. So it's not terrible, but this is not a first choice card. I would not recommend putting it into a deck right away if you have other options. Now, there are advantages to this. Most off, it's buffing creatures in green for not too much mana. What you want to do with this, though, is have a massive hand. So you'll want to set up a draw mechanic in advance. Now, the problem is, the mechanics I usually use in green rely on me playing creatures at the same time I draw them, so my usual methods don't really work with this card. What is interesting, though, is I personally think this is a good setup to an endgame, specifically in an all-green deck, or even something just running green on the side. Green-blue for obvious reasons. The card draw would make this Sunbringer's Torch kind of insane, but when you have blue in your deck, you have better options already. What's good about this, though, is that it interacts quite well with one specific card that's honestly perfectly made for EDH. Praetor's Council. It's a, well, pretty damn expensive card, honestly. It's an 8-drop, 5 colorless, 3 green. This is not something you play early. This is the card that you want to play when, the game's halfway done or nearly done, and you are really, really, really in trouble, because you have everything in the graveyard. It says, return all cards from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Praetor's Council. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. For obvious reasons, this works really well with Sunbringer's Torch, because this relies on how many cards you have in hand. They play off each other really well, because late game, this is one of the cards you'll probably get back, because early game, even mid game, just discard it. Don't worry about it. It is not worth keeping. Late game, though, it is the perfect card to follow up Praetor's Council. Maybe either that turn or the turn after, because you're going to want to use something with all those cards. Sunbringer's Torch takes any creature you have on the field, the weakest one, and will suddenly make them probably something big enough to one-shot one of your opponents. Because you're probably going to have at least 20 or 30 cards in hand, easily. I wouldn't recommend using Praetor's Council into this prior to that, though. Now, if you have some kind of way to do it earlier, great, but these two cards together interact incredibly well. Oh, and it also gives trample, which is kind of nice because it means you can just walk over anyone. But really, it's useful, and it makes the card much easier to end a game. But short of that one last hit off of Praetor's Council, I wouldn't recommend it. Now, if you have a green self-mill deck with the, what's it called? The Druid that I cannot seem to remember, or remember where my copy of is, I'd have it for the video, but I honestly can't seem to find it. I really wish I could, because I only have the one copy, and I actually like it. But the guy's 2-drop Druid, he says tap and mill until you hit a basic land. So if you have a deck of all non-basic lands, you're probably going to screw yourself out. So I would put a few basic in there. But all three of those cards, if I could find all three of them rather than just these two, work out well. Now, it's very mana intensive, so it's not an early game combo either. But these two alone always work well together. Now, Praetor's Council is interesting because you'll get a lot of options back, but I think this one's just really good to use right off the bat because it'll buff one creature to lethal levels almost certainly. Other than that, there's better options, but this is how to use it in an interesting and effective way. Alright, hope that helps. If you liked the video, leave a comment, leave a like, obviously. Subscribe to my channel, and, well, yeah. Hope you had fun. Later.